High spots and cheap pops. What in the flying hell is going on with All Elite Wrestling? We're going to get right into it. This is Silicon Steve Valli with Vladi, Dadi. Let's go into a heated debate between myself and the master of Dadi. I mean, you basically took away CM Punk and Kenny Omega. Those are two of your top three stars, probably.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's like, and then just have the constant uncertainty going on with the championships.
But by the way, CM Punk's the biggest reason for that. Fragile body and all. Sorry. You got to stay healthy if you want to be a champ. And fucking unbelievable. And you know what? I don't give a fuck about Scott Colton. I don't give a fuck. Guy's a piece of shit, though. Do you know he has his mother on his car insurance? What kind of fucking human being has his mother on his car insurance when she doesn't fucking live in his house? That's the kind of fucking guy he is. That's the kind of fucking guy that I got to deal with. And I have to deal with him. I have to answer questions about this fucking guy. I don't care what he does. I don't care if he shops at Giant, if he shops at ShopRite, if he shops at Pathmark. I don't fucking care. I don't talk about him. I haven't thought about him. But let me tell you something about him. Scott Colton. It was like, dude, wow. Poor Colt Cabana. What did he? Guy's just like, fuck. What kind of human being? That's just all you need to know about him as a person. He shares a bank account with his mother. What the fuck was that? Kenny Omega, fake gay. Fuck him. I'm old and I'm fucking tired and
I work with children.
I work with fucking children. Like brain dead fucking idiots, like stupid fucking Hangman Page. Who the fuck is this fucking guy not take advice from me? Me. The guy who built this company on his back and got every penny that ever came to it because of me, even though I've only been in the company for less than a year. Doesn't fucking matter. On my back, they drew those $1 million gates, even though I wasn't even on one of the cards. Like those comments like that is what makes you wonder what kind of human being Phil Brooks really is.
He's not perfect by any means.
Only Jesus is perfect, and CM Punk doesn't believe in God, so that's irrelevant.
I mean, can you blame him at this point of humanity?
CM Punk just wow. And then if you look at the ratings, and you're a ratings guy, it just dropped. It was steady, but it dropped. Even and you got to stop having mid-carders main event your shows. We've been saying that for a while. Yes, it was a nice moment. It was great. But you didn't have to close your show with Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. No one knows who the fuck they are outside of AEW. And that's why people don't fucking – that's why it is what it is, man. You're starting – you got to start wondering, man.
I didn't even see the ratings for Dynamite yet. I thought when I misread, I thought maybe you meant Rampage. I'm like, oh, I was in the midst of doing something. But I agree with you. Like the Garcia Yuta match, all right, I get it. You're in Buffalo. You're gonna go put over Garcia. Like it was obvious he was gonna win, right?
Yes. Why would you have the match? And Tony does that a lot, by the way.
Yeah.
If he
and
makes the wrong booking choice, he changes it.
Right.
Which he's gonna do with the Acclaimed.
Yeah, exactly. He should have just called an audible in Chicago.
He doesn't have the balls to do those things.
No. And like he was in the moment and he didn't do it. And I didn't even see it yet. But basically, when I read about it and, like it seemed obvious. And then also when they came out on Wednesday,
oh, wow.
That place was electric. So
now you can't have FTR and Acclaim go at it. That's the only thing.
No. You have to keep them away from each other. So that, they definitely sort of screwed the pooch with it.
And the other idea is that the stories that you hear You know, from you hear from the CM Punk's camp, Young Bucks basically barged down the door.
You know, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I've done a lot of research on this. I got a timeline. Am I still there? Freeze. Okay. I think I'm back. So I went and looked into this. And you and I are going to disagree on some things here. Punk is not above guilt in this. See, Tony Khan is extremely guilty in this. The EVPs, in my opinion, didn't act like EVPs. This is all hands on deck. A lot of fault to be thrown amongst in that room.
Yes.
Tony has got to get his shit together.
Yes.
And you know what? I understand you're going to say, oh, I can't see the Bucks doing this and this and that, man. I went back and I started reading articles about Punk when he arrived. I got quotes about like reasons he came to AEW. And then I also looked into how things progressed here. And if you want to hear that side, I'm more than willing to give it to you.
Oh, let's do it. You know what? I'll do an intro later. Let's get into this.
Yeah, because
this is the thing. And we're going to get into your side because I think we are going to differ.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega leaked anything to Dave Schmelzer. I don't doubt that they got their friends back and that they were doing some political stuff. But how bad of a political job could it have been when the guy was a champion, didn't even wrestle much the last 3 months? Then he comes back,
right?
Job's out, I think, to kind of protect Moxley from losing this next match. And then he wins in his hometown. Everything's a good night. No matter what's been going on, it did not deserve the destruction and selfishness that CM Punk dropped on Sunday night. It was an overreaction. And if anyone knows me, I'm the king of overreactions. Your overreaction becomes a story. I'm not saying he doesn't have a right to his feelings. I don't say he doesn't have a right to feel the way he does. I don't think he doesn't have a right to say whatever he wants to say. But with your words comes action, comes consequences. And the consequences of what CM Punk decided to do and the way and the manner in which he did it, the unprofessionalism, the cursing every 3 seconds, the stuffing his face with pastries, and just calling everybody out, not having no fucks to give. Like he didn't give a shit about AEW. Like he didn't give a shit about the fans. The guy who thinks he's so fucking popular literally turned heel in that media scrub. And because his body is fragile, just like Moxley pointed out, which whatever you want to say about the guy, the last 6 months, the guy's a joke in terms of and by the way, how many botches do we remember CM Punk having the last year? This guy isn't great in the ring. I haven't seen many greatness in the ring from him. I've seen sometimes he's had great matches with other people, MJF particularly, but CM Punk is he's best botch machine. Kenny's the best bout machine. Punk seems to be the best botch machine. Remember the buck shit lariat? Remember slipping on the ropes? And he had a fan fake an injury? It's just the guy is not nearly as good, just like we've always heard. He's not as good as he thinks he is. Everyone in the business that has worked with him has said he is a problem to work with for the most part. I'm just echoing what Triple H is saying. He's not as important to AEW as he thinks he is because they wouldn't have drawn the $1 million gate the second time.
Now, which second time are you talking about?
Well, they did 3 million in a row, and one was with New Japan. It was Forbidden Door, which he wasn't even on the card.
However, that was in Chicago, and they sold tickets thinking that he would be on that card. I mean, you can't discount that. I'm sorry, man.
Well, either way, I mean, it does help. It does. Look, he's a box office draw. I'm not saying he's not, but to sit there and take full credit, he took full credit for their $1 million gates. Come on, it's a table that you had nothing to do with setting. You cut your promo for yourself 10, 11 years ago. And then when it got too much for you, instead of doing what you said you were going to do and change the world and go to New Japan and go to Ring of Honor and wrestle all these people, you didn't do it. Cody Rhodes did it instead, as he so beautifully pointed out in his last promo in AEW. Punk left the business. And now that someone came back with a nice, hot product that everyone wanted to be a part of, he jumps on, and in one foul swoop, he brings more turmoil and destruction and embarrassment to that company that anyone could have ever fathomed. And that's because of his reaction. So no matter what they did, It was not deserved, and what he did was the worst thing that could have happened. Now, that being said, Tony Khan was sitting right next to him while this douchebag was just running amok, stuffing brownie in his face.
Are you most upset he didn't share those with you? Or I've seen
I wasn't
Kenny
there,
Omega.
so how would he share?
I've seen Kenny Omega 69 Don Callis in the middle of the ring on live TV. I think that's more.
I think they were being humorous, mocking,
yeah, you still had an EVP.
Eddie Kingston blowing John Moxley on pay-per-view.
I understand, but you still it was on pay-per-view, and you still had an EVP as manager 69ing each other.
It was
so. Again, do you want to talk professionalism?
It was a gag on television for entertainment purposes. You're really going to put that in the same text? Okay. He wasn't EVP in that moment. He was a wrestler. And making fun of Moxley and Eddie Kingston. That is a ridiculous fucking thing to bring up when we talk about a guy doing what Punk did this past Sunday.
Yeah. I'm talking about what happened, say, 2 weeks ago with his breathy little kitty cat promo that he did the night that Punk went into business for himself. I got plenty of issues with that, Mr. EVP. And if I was Punk and FTR, yeah, I'd have a lot of problems with what that guy said.
Okay, so what was Kenny Omega in character talking to a crowd? What pissed you off so much that he said that in character, not addressing the media? You got to make a distinction here. One is talking to the media real life. The other one's playing a character in a ring. There is a major distinction there.
And the other distinction you haven't mentioned once too is when you mentioned the quote unquote media there, you have Brian Alvarez and Mr. Meltzer himself sitting there, who are the wonderful, and I'll refer to them as the careless whisperers of the Bucks, and he's sitting face to face with them. And here's his opportunity to tell these guys where it's at. Which,
by the way, I like that part of it.
And they cowered. Oh, nothing. Yeah, Meltzer, you got nothing to say now. I'm face to face with you. And that was the difference, Mr. Valli. And I adore him for that.
It was good to see him browbeat wrestling journalists. That was
exactly
great. That was great. But that's cool. No one had a problem with that, I don't think. I think we're talking about when he buried half of the organization, saying just ridiculous things. Fuck bomb every 2 seconds. Brain dead fucking idiots. Can't run a target. Fucking children. I mean, this is ridiculous. That this is getting a pass from people. No, let's talk about none of these things caused the destruction that CM Punk's media scrum outlash did. None of them did the damage that did. That is the big thing. He's the one who there might have been a real small little fire. He dumped gasoline all over everything. Now, he's the number one culpable person because he's supposed to be better than that. He's supposed to be a genuine good guy. He's not. He's an arrogant douche.
And I see 3 arrogant douche EVPs that are supposed to be better than that.
All right, now
that are part of the corporate system.
Problems with the EVPs that factually was said. We know it happened. No rumors. We know it happened. Give me what it was.
All right, allow me to go back in time so we could just get this on the table. All right.
Yeah, let's get it.
And feel free.
Let's put our chips in the middle, Mr. Vlad.
Okay, so here's where it goes. All right, so CM Punk arrives approximately a year ago, right? I forget the exact date.
August 20th, 2021, sir.
Thank you, sir. So he basically sells out an arena on a rumor, right? Yes. That's pretty damn impressive. So he arrives and he provides Rampage with their highest ratings ever. Is that still true?
The guy was a legend and hadn't been seen in 7 years. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He also cut a pipe bomb back in 2011. And yes. Okay.
So Punk works and he does the media thing. It's a big deal. As you and I were both loving it, right? There's no denying it. Here's a quote. And, bear with me. You might have to draw this down a little bit, make it more pertinent, but I'm just going to read you the entire quote. I came back specifically so you could stop asking me when I'll come back. Ha ha ha. Little joke by Phil there. Timing's everything. I got a lot of other stuff going on, and AEW looks like an exciting, fun place that enables me to rekindle my love for professional wrestling, but also I'll also continue to do my MMA broadcasting, continue to act in TV and movies, and a couple other things that the world will find out come October, November. And this is where it gets interesting. Perfect storm, man. An offer I couldn't refuse. People I want to work with. Friendly environment. Tremendous backstage area. Just everything that reminded me of why I got into professional wrestling in the first place. CM Punk said.
That's how it was, yeah.
So he's commenting on what it's like there at that point in time. Then he does this other quote. Punk explained that he had been talking on and off the con about signing with AEW for the past 18 months.
Yeah.
Brody Lee, God rest his soul, passed away during that time. And it appears the way AEW and its locker room handled that played a big role in convincing Punk to come back and come aboard.
Yeah.
Come to find out, he was sick. This is a Phil quote. But nobody knew. Nobody said anything to anybody because it's nobody's business. A lot of respect for everybody back there. So that was the hook. They knew to not put stuff out in front of the media. Keep it, have some sort of dignity. This is unheard of stuff for somebody who worked at WWE especially. Right? And to me, it would be appealing to me as well. Right? So, as Punk indicates in his first promo, he wants to work with AEW's younger talent. He proceeds to work with the likes of Darby Allin, Powerhouse Hobbs, Daniel Garcia, Lee Moriarty, Wardlow, amongst others, and all leads to nothing short of the best feud of the past 20 years, Punk versus MJF. Did the EVPs, Hangman, do anything close to that in their 3 years of there?
None of them worked with MJF either.
Did they? Hey, they like working with their friends who they're very comfortable with. Did they do anything close to that?
Punk didn't. What's Punk done other than the MJF thing?
And
the Hangman one wasn't that great.
I would say
botch after botch. Eddie Kingston, he was booed out of the building when he faced Eddie Kingston, which he had a botch in that match too.
So okay, MJF made that entire feud, right?
I thought that I don't think that feud's nearly as good without MJF. You needed both. To give CM Punk the credit for that feud is preposterous.
It's showing me that he can work with young talent. I mean, Chris Jericho worked with MJF, and he has a lot more talent than a lot more experience than CM Punk. And they did a song and dance routine.
I mean, you had two great promos. You had something really well thought out. It was a brilliant feud. No one said that.
Jericho's a pretty good promo.
No, Punk's a better promo than Jericho, at least now, anyway.
I mean, so then you probably have the two best.
So all right, so okay, he had a great run with MJF. What else did he do in his term? That's all I'm asking.
Okay,
so then really impressive that he's done other than the MJF stuff.
Well, I mean, what else has he done? He was in the feud of the year. Let's not sell that short, right?
Yeah, we just talked about it. What else did he do in that year that was so special?
Okay, so then we go May 25th, Dynamite promo between Punk and Hangman.
Yes.
Okay, so and watching that promo again, here's a quote. Punk to Hangman, walking in the challenger and very respectfully walking out the champion. He's staring right at him, trying to give Hangman Page his due respect as the champion in that promotion. As he looks at Page, Punk refers to Page as quote unquote possibly the toughest son of a bitch on the roster and holds the gold for good reason. Here, the guy who was just in the best feud of the year is putting over the world champion who was nothing but a mid-card champion. You and I both agreed on that. Put him over, and their money promo leading into that great pay-per-view. And we all knew that Punk was going to win.
Yeah.
So sour grapes are already in the table in terms of Page and the EVP side here. Okay.
And you know that for a fact.
That Punk was going to lose?
No, you know that they had sour grapes over that for a fact.
Well, let's see how Hangman responds to him.
Yeah, I remember how pissed off. Wait a minute. I remember how pissed off everybody was about this quote when it happened. I remember how just everyone knew exactly what it was. I remember how pissed off you were. Even though this might be the first time you're bringing it up. Okay, please go ahead. Tell me. What was the quote?
How can he be pissed off about something meandering and cryptic? So he decides to be meandering and cryptic during his stellar moment with the biggest star in the ring in his biggest title defense. But you're getting sassy with me because I wasn't angry about it.
I just think you're pulling. At the end of the day,
I'm looking back in history. And
so you think Punk was just? Let's go. Keep going. I'm not going to stop it.
So here we go. Right. So then also he basically gives him his due respect there. Right. So then Page states that he's been looking to embarrass Punk for months, imagining himself sitting at the top of the ramp, cross-legged, and blow up a pipe bomb on Punk.
Was this on a party, or was this like to the media or something, or when was this?
This is during their promo.
Wrestlers talking, wrestlers cutting promos. Gotcha.
On Dynamite.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah,
this is where Hangman is going. And this is where Hangman's going in business for himself, by the way.
Okay.
So basically he says, how cathartic. As soon as he does that, the place starts chanting for Punk left and right. I just watched this promo again this morning. Right? Page refers to Punk's pettiness and cowardice. He has no respect for Punk or what he's done since arriving. He just had the feud of the year and just basically stole all the thunder in the building from the mid-card champion. But he has no respect for it. Okay. He's the one that's drawing a lot of money into and a lot of eyes on their company. None that Hangman was doing, but no respect again. Understand? Page discusses the small, quiet moments after the red light is off, when no one is watching. That's what makes a champion. And he says to him, you talk a big game about workers' rights, but you've shown the exact opposite since you've gotten here. And then he's like, I'm not defending the championship. I'm defending AEW from Punk. Okay, so what's this all going on? Workers' rights? Workers' rights. Punk's anti-workers' rights all of a sudden there, right? So Punk tells him he's talking in circles and riddles, which he totally was. There was nothing even associated with this feud at this point. It was him going into business for himself, but nobody wants to mention that.
Actually, I heard that mentioned 3 million times, so I don't know what you're talking about. It does not excuse what Punk did. It's simple. Does not excuse it. Takes nothing away from it.
So please explain what Page's actions were good for business. Was it professional? And let me ask you this.
It was a fucking promo in the ring, dude. I'm not really caring about professionalism. What are we talking about here? We don't know enough about that promo. We don't know enough to judge it. You go by what damaged the company. What damaged the company more?
So this was the week of May 27th. That same week, Meltzer goes and does an article about Colt Cabana being released from AEW and how the Young Buck saved his job to ensure that he can go to Ring of Honor. And Meltzer goes and says that this probably has something to do with Colt's relationship with CM Punk. So you tell me one doesn't have anything to do with the other.
Meltzer said that?
Yes. May 27th was around the time the Observer went and posted that article.
Yeah. Okay.
Same week of Hangman versus Punk.
Wait. What if it's true?
What if it's true?
What if CM Punk got in Tony Khan's ear and maybe it was true? If we're going to go by supposeds and we're going to start taking promos on a show the way we want to look at it, then you have to ask the questions on both sides. What if CM Punk is this ostracized prick in the background that no one really wants to talk to and thinks is an arrogant douchebag? Joey Janela tweeted something today, how Punk was condescending and kind of a douche to him when he was in there in the brief time he spent together. What if there's a reality that CM Punk is kind of a douchebag and no one likes him in the back? We heard Eddie. You know what? Why don't we take Eddie Kingston to task? Nobody wants you here. I'm the only one who'll say it to your face. Nobody wants you here. This is all accurate. If it's true, why? Why? And why are you giving CM Punk?
Eddie Kingston also doesn't like Daniel Bryan, doesn't like Claudio. He doesn't like a lot of people.
And
so why is he the the barometer of?
Well, he's not. We have CM Punk.
And what I'm talking about is a world championship promo, and you have your millennial cowboy bringing up workers' rights as if CM Punk was the guy to go and say, fire this guy. And let's keep in mind. So let me ask you this: during this world championship promo, is it really necessary to bring up Colt Cabana, who is arguably the 4th or 5th most important member of the Dark Order?
He was probably 6th.
You're probably right. After what's her face. So basically that's what's building a promo. That's what makes money in this business. Is him alluding to somebody being fired. Do you think primetime Ric Flair would have dealt with that? Harley Race, Hulk Hogan?
Hulk Hogan has a history of burying people behind the scenes.
But on the camera, when the go home show, basically to your pay-per-view, you think they're going to go and want to work with that guy? How do they know what he's going to do in the ring if he's doing that in the promo?
What part of that promo was better? CM Punk's respectful bullshit, or when Hangman actually showed passion and anger to build the match? What made me want to see it was Hangman was actually bringing some fire. And he used a little bit of reality into it, but no one knew what the hell he was talking about. You had no idea he was talking about Colt Cabana until you did your research or this problem popped out, or you heard about it a couple weeks ago. So let's be, nobody knew he was talking about Colt Cabana till about a couple weeks ago, when people started hearing rumors that CM Punk is a miserable and he's threatening to quit and he's back to being the old CM Punk that sucked in WWE. We heard all that stuff. Maybe he's not that good of a guy in the locker room like he thinks he is. How about the story about when he tried to tell Cody Rhodes, Booker T, other Hall of Famers that have been there longer, and he said, and he gave them a lecture about how he's a locker room leader and they need to clean up after their garbage, says CM Punk. And Booker T took a piece of garbage and threw it right on the ground right in front of him because they thought he was a joke. How about all those stories? How about all the stories where pretty much everyone likes Hunter Hearst Helmsley, including yourself, and likes working with him, except for CM Punk? He left the company, and one of the reasons is because he didn't want to wrestle at WrestleMania. What about that CM Punk? What about that guy? Maybe he's just a douchebag. Maybe. And maybe you have 3 babies as EVPs who have too much fucking power and not enough popularity to have the stroke that they have, which is damn right.
And I agree with that.
I know you agree with
it. That's a huge part of it. But
the reality is this guy, what he did this past Sunday is damaging to the company. But you can continue. It still doesn't take anything away from what he did. That's the big thing. That's like you rob somebody and then you murder his family. And guess what? The guy who murdered his family is the problem, is the biggest problem.
So you're Punk. I mean, keep in mind, people behind the scenes. I'm sorry, the audience themselves have no idea what's going on behind the scenes in terms of Colt Cabana getting let go. And again, as you mentioned, the baby EVPs are trying to override the owner of the company and spend his money on their friends once again.
And they did. And they didn't try.
Yeah, right. And they succeeded. And the thing is, it's again, what does this have to do with us selling a pay-per-view for the world title? This has nothing to do with what's in front of the camera. And again, we're talking in riddles, and you have to be somebody that's in the locker room to understand this. So is that the audience that Hangman's going for?
That one line that people barely even saw until it was a story. That was one part of a very, very passionate promo that Hangman did to try to sell the match. Hangman did more selling that match in the promos than CM Punk did. Period. Now, CM Punk's name is what helped it more than anything, no doubt. But in terms of promos, Punk's promos were vanilla, and it was designed that way Punk was trying to be respectful. It's not like that was kind of the way I mean, we're talking about promos inside a wrestling ring, like it's real life. Yeah, they blur the lines, but It's not like Hangman Adam Page goes and talks like that to real life. Hangman Adam Page, by all words, is actually a very kind human being outside of wrestling. When the red light goes off, and he's a young kid. He's only 29. Yeah. He probably made a fucking mistake. But then CM Punk calls him out, and we forget about that part. Go ahead.
Again, he calls him out in front of his careless whisperers there with Meltzer and Alvarez. This was his shot once again.
Meltzer and Alvarez was there when CM Punk cut that promo challenging him to a fight, challenging him to a match in the ring when he was not around, or when he was clearly not going to do it because it wasn't scripted. How about that thing? Shouldn't that equal out the first thing that Hangman did? Shouldn't that cancel it out? Shouldn't that be over? No. Media scrum.
Right.
How much more did he need to do? He needed to blow this thing up. He cut his promo. He proved his fucking point. Leave it at that. But no, he couldn't do it because he's still pissed off and bitter that his friend stabbed him in the back and tried to sue him. He's still pissed off about it. He can pretend like he's not, but hurt people, like he said. He's still pissed off. I don't care about Scott Colton. And he talks about him for 5 minutes. Fucking get the fuck out of here and see a therapist. Have a drink. Smoke some weed.
Do you think there's anything to the whole mother on the checking account thing with, it's almost like
weird.
No. Consider who's sitting next to him. That's what Kevin Nash said. Almost like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm basically, it's almost like an underhanded slap to him.
So CM Punk basically what he did was he tried to get himself fired. So that's the only thing.
I'm not saying
that's fired, the case.
He's showing you the reality of what he's dealing with and who he's working with at this point.
And he's getting paid millions of dollars to do so, to be the guy instead of trying to cause him stress. CM Punk caused more problems for Tony Khan in 5 minutes, or 10 minutes talking to the media than Tony Khan has dealt with in 3.5 years. And that's a reality, whether we want to talk about it or not.
Right. So you fast forward to 8/17, right? So that's the Dynamite. Punk returns, goes into business for himself, calls out Hangman, as you just mentioned, right? So then later that night, we see the return of Kenny Omega in the trios match. 200,000 viewers turned away from that to go check out something else instead of seeing his grand return. Then that's actually the first of 2 times in a row where Omega and the Bucks lost that many viewers, by the way. So they're obviously ratings kryptonite at this point. All right.
I think it's a little extreme, but okay. Ratings kryptonite.
I mean, it's 2 for 2 since he returned. I mean, is that extreme or is that just stating the facts?
Well, it's not like it's a Anna Jay Penelope Ford match that gets, whatever. I mean, I think it was still the third highest segment on the show. It wasn't like it was, I mean, come on now.
What, Omega's?
Yeah,
it was the worst. They were the worst segments both times. Ratings.
They were the lowest rated segments both times.
Both times.
Lowest. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
So then after his return match, Omega cuts a promo found on AEW's YouTube page where Omega proclaims that he and the Young Bucks are authentic. One of your favorite words, right?
Authentic.
Right. So they're authentic, right? They're not, and this is the quote, they're not a parody or a tribute band, which is nothing but a shot at Punk and FTR as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Don't keep in mind, they're not in the basically a poor man's version of the NWO with the Bullet Club, and they don't use the Too Sweet. And then the Young Bucks are like basically the jerk off versions of HBK before he lost his smile. But yeah, they're not parodies, and they're not a tribute band. Get out of here with that, please.
I don't remember Shawn Michaels ever doing half the shit the Young Bucks did in terms of flippy shit.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels is actually a good professional wrestler, not a trampoline artist.
Unless he was in a bad mood in the mid-90s.
Right, but you can't deny it. So when you go and when your EVP is cutting a promo to the crowd that's going to be on your YouTube
that
page,
you are assuming was a blank shot right at CM Punk, it was probably about a lot of guys.
it was CM Punk and FTR were the top of that list because of them idolizing Bret Hart, the Terry Funks of the world, the Horsemen. Who else would he be talking about? Huh? Andrade? Like what? Malachi Black? Oh, you're trying to be the Undertaker? Do you think that was his point?
I mean,
please, man.
There's a lot of guys. You could if you're gonna go that way, you can make I mean, he's much more Undertaker than FTR is Bret Hart. So I don't know. You're making assumptions there, and I'm not going to entertain assumptions. If you knew that for a fact.
Whoa. So you're telling me FTR doesn't do stuff that Bret Hart does. They don't do stuff.
Why are you gaslighting me? That's a gaslight right there. That's a gaslight.
No, it's the truth. They don't do stuff that the Midnight.
I never said that. That's a gaslight. You just gaslit me.
So basically,
right on live YouTube, you gaslit me.
So who's Omega? Especially all these things in consideration, especially when his little EVPs are avoiding FTR because they realize that they are not even the best tag team in their division anymore, and they can't handle it. So he's going to go and say that and make that little thing, and then after that, he's going to go and compare the crowd.
You know this because you're inside their heads, so you know this for a fact.
And after that, he's going to go and compare the crowd to a little kitty cat because that's not weird. But again, it sounds like you have a big problem with them as people more than they have in this situation. And by the way, you've been bashing them for months now. You hate him you hate these guys almost as much as a certain Jim I know. I don't even know a guy named Jim.
Oh, you do. You love the territory days. I have territory days and like people fucking my wife in front of me.
In terms of that, you cannot tell me that parody and tribute band thing was not meant towards them.
I can tell you, I don't know that for a fact. I think it was a blanket statement to a lot of people in the industry. I don't think it was specifically just for them. It might be. You can certainly make that assumption, but you do not know that. And we can't make assumptions. CM Punk, we know. He said hang in by Page. He said EVPs. We know he was talking about them.
He never said. He never said Kenny Omega's name by name there. He could have just meant the young. Well, there's $2 and they're EVPs, so don't gaslight me, please.
I didn't. Did I say? Do you know what gaslighting means? I didn't gaslight you. What are you talking about? Gaslighting is when you tell somebody that they're thinking something when they're not, or said something to them.
You're alluding to that he might have been mentioning Kenny Omega there, and I'm saying there's a chance he might not have been because there are $2 and they're EVPs.
Well, here's the deal. So you're saying specific EVPs, opposed to a random. Okay.
No. The truth is,
it's equal. Then all things equal. It's fine.
Yeah, we're not going to be sarcastic with each other anymore. Basically, he meant.
You are really getting upset here, man. Bring it out, man.
No, because
your quarrels with Tony Khan and the Bucks and Kenny, not me.
No, my quarrels are with you on this particular thing because you can't even admit that Omega meant those guys. And
I don't know. I can tell you he probably meant them. They were top of the list. Okay, I'll give you. They'll probably be at the top of the list. But they're not the only people who go out there and do something that somebody did from the past. Shit. I mean, look at the dude, what's his name? Damian Sandow and Mr. Perfect's kid. It happens all the time. All the time. How many times do we see it on WWE? Some kind of weird ode to somebody different. Or how many? And by the way, that's taste. That has nothing to do to me.
I've seen Punk wear Sting's makeup. That's a parody, if you will. I've seen the
okay,
FTR
man. You know what? This certainly isn't. This isn't a big enough. This isn't a big enough point of this discussion to spend this time on. So move on. Fine.
So
he probably meant that.
Right.
Probably meant that.
And again, this is coming from the EVP, and then he leaves the locker room on that note, basically, which is still up on their AEW YouTube page, right? So the following week,
cutting a promo. Why are you taking so much what they're saying when they're in character in the ring? This is a different ballgame. You can't compare promos to a media scrum. Let's stop doing that right now. It's ridiculous.
You don't think that undermines the guy who's going for the world champion, and also you're the best tag team? No. especially when his friends avoid them.
Well, that's a whole other story that has nothing to do with this.
That's not knocking him down.
The guy's people think he's a douchebag. What do you want? It's not just, unfortunately, they think he's a douchebag. No matter how much money he brings in, people don't like the guy. His feelings are probably hurt because he wanted people to like him, but no one likes him. Fragile ego.
There's plenty of fragile egos there, man.
100%. But to sit there and talk about a guy who used to be one of your best friends, say you don't give a shit about him, spend 5 minutes railroading the guy, talking about his mom with a bank account. It's a little fucking bizarre, to be honest with you. The guy needs to go see therapy. That's all.
Well,
anger management.
The whole point of that whole portion of what Scott Colton was that he hasn't had anything to do with him for 10 years. Doesn't care where he works. Doesn't care what he does.
And then he proceeded to talk shit about him, about how he's one of the 2 people who got most rich off of his name, which is true.
Right.
He goes in about his mom and having a bank account. I mean, he didn't just talk about how he didn't want to talk about him. He humiliated the guy, or at least attempted to. So let's not make it like he just said, "Oh, I just don't like him." He spent time trying to destroy, to absolutely eviscerate Colt Cabana, which he did. Let's not try to take this into something where he's not. The guy honestly is clearly still disturbed by Colt Cabana, one of his best friends, who he did more than anything. And by the way, he's not wrong for his feelings. There's no wrong. It's his reactions and the words he used. His feelings are his feelings. He has every right to them. But handle yourself like you are the guy who makes the money instead of costing the company money, which what you did. And embarrassment. That's what he did here. Those other guys, everything you're bringing up did not embarrass the company the way Punk did. It's that simple, but continue. So far, I don't see how you can compare the two. I don't. I'm sorry. I can see why he's upset.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
but you don't act like that. You don't act like that. You don't drop the F-bomb 35 fucking times. You don't call Hanneman. I mean, he literally called him brain dead fucking idiot. I hope you have every quote that he said in this scrum in your thing. I hope you do. If not, I will quote these to you.
Oh no, I know how much he cursed for sure.
We're going to quote his media scrum when all this is over. We're going to quote his media scrum.
I mean, and here's the other thing. Getting back to Tony a little bit. You're talking about Punk cursing. That same night, here's a direct quote from Tony Khan. Right. When I compared myself to Jim Crockett Promotions this weekend, I got a taste of the same medicine Jim Crockett Promotions took. But I have a lot more fucking money, and I'm serious. I'm not going to sit back and take this fucking shit.
Okay, buddy.
So again, here he's at the media scrum and not necessarily handling himself professionally.
Well, I'm certainly not. I mean, he was a deer in the fucking headlight. He has no idea what he's doing. Okay. I'm not going to deny that. That's something right. I'm certainly not going to.
So that, when the owner of the company talks like that during the scrum.
Are you comparing what he said to what CM Punk said?
Listen, I'm convinced that there's nothing that compares to what CM Punk said in your mind. But what I'm saying is this is the entire environment that he's working in.
It's an environment that was a very happy place before he got there.
You say that now.
Everybody said that.
Of course, because they don't want to go rock the boat with the EVPs. But when those EVPs start leaving, you watch what comes out.
Well, again, this is speculation and assumption. We can only go with what we know.
I'm fine with that. And then one day when this all comes out, you're going to be like, holy shit. Mark my words.
Well, give me a favor, since you have the quotes out. Give me the CM Punk exact quote when he called out Hangman Adam Page.
I didn't put that exact quote down. I basically watched the media scoring probably 3 times.
I have a question. Did you only quote the things that were damning to the elite and not bring up the CM Punk stuff? Because you're kind of skimming over the stuff he said. Don't worry. I have his speech at the scrum all lined up, and we'll see.
Right. No, here's the thing. Everybody knows of the scrum, right? Who hasn't seen it at this point? But I'm giving you the background and how it started and how this evolved.
Yeah, and I was aware of all this, but the problem is none of it equates to what CM Punk did. None of it.
So when you have like conspiracies going on behind basically the guy that is probably the biggest draw in your company, none of that equates to this. They're looking to sabotage the guy.
They're looking to sabotage the guy. It doesn't, he was the world fucking champion. Come on. Come on. Maybe he's just a douchebag and people don't like him. And he's arrogant. And he thinks he's better than he is. Maybe. There is that reality that maybe people don't like him. Maybe Eddie Kingston wasn't bullshitting. To say that they're sabotaging him, that's conspiracy theory. The guy's the world champion. The guy was the world champion of your company. Nobody's sabotaging him.
And as he was trying to become world champion, you have the champion himself saying, you're basically getting people fired in the locker room. You're not for workers' rights, because workers' rights is what the champion is concerned with. He's a real, like, I mean, he's like a real union guy all of a sudden here, right? Because the EVPs made a union there, right? Everybody got their health benefits, didn't they, with AEW, right? Like they said they would. Here's another thing with the scrum, and this is part of the
the health benefits had nothing to do with what we're talking about. Go ahead.
Did you catch one thing when he mentioned Reseda, California?
Yes.
Did you know what the reference is with that?
I'm assuming something to do with independence with the Young Bucks.
Namely, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla.
Okay.
And basically, looking into that thing, you know who was the founder of that?
By the way, Vladi Dadi, we got to give him credit, whether I agree with him or not. The research and the beauty he's done here, giving the show his best effort. I like it.
And this is where it was captivating to me with that statement. He was basically saying, like, you're running this place like that place, right? Do you know who the founder of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla was? I didn't know this until I looked it up. I'm just
Jeff Jarrett.
No, that would have been boring, but not right.
Wrestling Guerrilla, was that the one? What company was that? Do we remember? Was it
PWG, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, out of California? It was in different places, like Burbank. But I believe Punk wrestled there when they were in Reseda, which was where his own experience happened.
I don't know who it is. I would assume they're a California person, so they would be Cali guy. I'm trying to think who a good California jack off wrestler was at one point.
If you want to guess, go for it. If not, I'll let you know.
I'm going to say Rick the Marla Martel.
No, it was none other than Me Too darling Joey Ryan was the founder of that great place to wrestle, where they would go and entertain between 200 and 500 people at events.
Famous dick wrestler. You have to say the whole thing.
Yes.
Famous
and he was the founder. He was the founder, and good old Excalibur was also very high up there on the hierarchy for PW.
Dropped the N-bomb a couple times, Excalibur did, I bet you. Him and Kevin Owens.
Yeah, right. And this is part of that federation. And what was interesting, when I would go and look up that federation, you go look at their roster and who's wrestled there, and then go take a look at AEW's roster. And then you got All Friends Wrestling from birth to the current day right now. And that's where the little Reseda remark comes from. And it's basically saying, hey, you guys are trying to run this like you guys ran that place. And that was the underlying thing there. And it was interesting. I had no idea. And you know what, Joey Ryan.
Great line then. I don't have a problem with that line. Actually, that's a line I don't have a problem with.
Yeah. And I was like, holy crap. And I'm like, and they, right there sort of, and I agree. He was over the top with everything from the bakery goods. And hey, at least he plugged them.
Was he trying to get fired, do you think?
You know what? I think he realized he was injured before he went into that scrum with the tricep, and he probably had zero fucks to give. And realized, you know what? I'm just gonna. Meltzer's here, Alvarez is here, and there was another guy there that he sort of called out, and he was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it all hang out, and I don't give a shit because they could fire me, but no matter what, I'm gonna have to rehab. I'm gonna be away anyways.
Yeah,
and I think that had a lot to do with it, because if they're saying he got injured during the tope suicida, basically, and his tricep was gone, he knew he was going to be out for several months. And again, listen, I used to give Omega. Hell, I got an Omega shirt because of you, because I watched Okada against Omega. I was like very impressed, right?
And
But now
Punk's
as
never
I've
had as
had,
good of a match in his life, for the record.
and even though I've watched that, and I was like, oh, basically the Bucks were interesting to me. I kind of knew them as Generation Me because I did watch TNA at that point. And then they're doing the Bullet Club thing. They come back, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be very cool. And I was very excited for AEW. But after I got this major dose with them, and I sort of see how things went with Cody Rhodes, especially, and I'm seeing how things are breaking down here, and I see how they're very almost tribalistic with their boys.
Okay.
This is not really great for business. And basically, I am a firm believer that none of them should be EVPs. There's no reason any of those wrestlers should be EVPs. If I'm Tony Khan, honestly, I look around the room. I got William Regal there. That's what EVP material.
Jim
Honestly,
Ross, Tony Schiavone.
Thank you. Right there, the second name you mentioned is the guy. And I would have Schiavone. Those would be my 3 EVPs. And that would be my counsel. And they would be my voice, my heart, my soul for that company if I'm Tony Khan. And as soon as I saw they got rid of the Trios Championship, I'm like thinking there's a little bit more to this than what we know. And you sort of alluded to when we started talking about it. There's this story, then there's that story, right? And to me, there's somewhere in the middle is the truth as to what happened. And the fact that they have a third, like a third party team investigating this. I read today that they're interviewing MJF because he witnessed it. Also, the woman that is sort of Tony Khan's like right hand. She was mentioned during the locker room thing. She has a unique name, I forget, but she's very tied to the Khan family.
Yes.
She evidently witnessed it. So the fact that they went and stripped those guys of their titles and suspended them, right? There's a little bit more to this.
Yeah. If Punk just got suspended, I'm sorry to get up, but if Punk just got suspended or what have you, I would say it was a work. But because they lost their titles too, this tells me it's not a work.
Yeah. And then that's where I'm thinking, honestly, they got to strip those titles away from those guys, because what they've opened to themselves up to with this situation, even though, Punk was out of control for sure and went, into business for himself, unlike anybody else, they still, as employees and EVPs, sort of created a hostile work environment by addressing it right then and there versus waiting, going to Tony Khan and saying, listen, we got to talk to you about this. We are not cool with what just happened there. Yeah. And tomorrow morning, we need to have a meeting. That's how executives act. You don't go to somebody's locker room and start having that conversation right there, especially if the guy has a torn tricep. If he got further injured,
they weren't EVPs, they were wrestlers
at that moment.
Yes. And you can't do that when you got to be
exactly.
an EVP. I agree with that 100%.
And that's where I'm at with this, man. And that's the thing where it's like, and knowing Punk, especially if he doesn't feel like coming back, he's gonna be like, well, look at this, I'm their champion. I got hurt, and then I got in a fist fight with the EVPs. He's gonna look to take them to the cleaners if he can. However, let me say this: in my daydream sort of world, because I know that Omega and Punk were recorded as having like a conversation a little later, and evidently wasn't quote unquote fruitful. No. However, at least they talked. I would love for them to go and build off of this.
I hope CM Punk doesn't botch and fuck the matchup.
I would love to see, and again, there's you know what? Again, we could just watch something with the Bucks where they're going to go and coordinate something, and somebody's got to wait there for 8 seconds for them to go and do their move. So they don't really have the time. Well, they have enough time to sort of guard against a botch, especially. There is no.
Maybe he's going to do the one-winged angel, but it'll be just a backdrop because he can't fucking do it right. So he just think he fucked up the buckshot lariat.
Or Mega could just go and pick up an unconscious guy and give him the one-winged angel like he did in his first match back too. That was safe. I mean,
well, looked a lot better than that buckshot lariat. Well, when Punk slipped on the ropes 3 times since he's been back. Let's not do ring bell to bell. Let's not do bell to bell. It's not a comparison.
Well, let's do dollar to dollar then.
Sure, Roman Reigns beats them all.
No, now you're adhering to the tribal chief all of a sudden. But if I'm them, man, I like if they allow him to blow off some steam, let some time go, and he's still, and basically what I'm worried about is Omega because I know his contract's up in 2023, but I'm not sure when in 2023. And honestly,
Early.
I have a few. Is it early? And that's where I'm worried because I could see him just going back to Japan. Honestly,
there are rumors he's going to be at Wrestle Kingdom against Will Ospreay.
Say, and that's where I'm like worried that my pipe dream in terms of booking this, where you actually do a feud built off of this, and you actually team Punk up with FTR, and you have Omega and the Bucks. Silicon Valley, you could go and fill up MetLife Stadium with that match. Okay, you could do. I don't. Is a Soldier Field probably still in Chicago? If you want to go out to L.A., where it's the Bucks' home country or hometown, right?
They won't draw.
There especially they will because Joey Ryan and his buddies will show up. But basically,
He's
you
banned
will
from every
have
wrestling show and in schools.
This is what I was going to tell you about. This is what I was going to tell you about Joey Ryan. Do you know that he ended up getting a job at Disneyland, and then somebody realized and recognized him, and then brought it to Disneyland's attention, and they had to fire him because of all the sexual allegations?
Poor Joey Ryan.
Recent. Poor guy. Me too, darling.
Well, he's not a darling. He's probably the reason it happened.
He definitely is. So, but yeah, man, I just really, I hope that's where this can go. And where that's my hope comes from is that he's injured. There's time to sort of digest it, let it cool off. And then when he's not injured, that will basically help shake some stuff up for them. And listen, here's the silver lining of all this. You get a clean slate. If they don't make Bryan Danielson the champion and start anew here, they're crazy. Okay? You've got this big show at Arthur Ashe Stadium here in New York. If you don't give the Acclaim the titles there, and it's Max Caster's backyard, and that team is so over.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful. Like
Tony made that. Yeah, Tony remade that rematch because he knew he didn't book it right. And he's going to give him that moment.
So there you go. You get it off of Swerve and Keith Lee. They have a chance to sort of right some wrongs here and start fresh. And what you do with the Bucks and Omega, I guess it probably hinges on what happens in that investigation in the meantime. But something has got to happen with the structure of that company.
Yeah, I think it's one. Tony Khan. All the warts are completely apparent. Everyone sees it. I bashed CM Punk. I thought he was the most culpable in this. I think anyone who thinks otherwise is delusional. No offense. I think he's the most culpable in terms of the damage that it created for this company. However, he's not responsible for the company. Tony Khan is. So it's Punk's fault, Khan's responsibility. And yes, the EVPs bear some of the responsibility too, because they could have just chilled the fuck out like Hangman Page did. Hangman Page did nothing. Punk called him out and was a douchebag there and did nothing. And don't forget, you might have, I don't know if you were done with your report, and I apologize, we got messed on it. But don't forget, Kenny also said right into the camera, which I think was directed at Moxley and Punk as well. Why don't you guys try to follow that after they won their triples match? You could make that assumption too. Omega, but this is Kenny Omega being the wrestler Kenny Omega when he's in the ring. What AEW is beautiful about is that everything is different. And Kenny Omega always wanted that kind of eclecticity. But the fact remains is they going there was not the right play because this was what happened. If all this did happen. They're all culpable, no doubt about it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Elite are not culpable at all. They should not be airing their dirty laundry, but they never aired dirty laundry at all to anybody else. I think the CM Punk he's just not a popular guy. He comes off like he knows more than he does. And even maybe he does. People don't like him. And so that happens. People talk shit on people they don't like. Unfortunately, you're the EVPs. But what happens in WWE, that happens all the time. No one really cares. You hear that shit all the time in WWE.
Right.
Maybe not since Triple H got there, but you get that all the time. AEW is supposed to be better. Maybe Punk got hurt. Again, I think this comes from his feelings being hurt. I mean, and I don't know if we can go, if you want to go into his quotes, because you were really good at putting out with all the other, like the Hangman quote, the Kenny quotes. Would you like to go through what CM Punk said?
Oh, I mean, everybody's heard the scrum. I mean, it's as fresh as can be.
Most people have heard because it's news because of what he said.
Most people are just going off the scrum, and then it's like a feeding frenzy. And then you see, like at this point, I see Kenny Omega as being basically portrayed as a lifesaver for a dog. Like I could not believe I saw this, and I'm like, you know what? Nobody knows what happened there, and now he's saving puppies from burning buildings.
I think he was saving from Ace Steel. Don't worry, Ace Steel bit him. So, well, let's just do it for comparison, because you were so offended and hurt by everything the Elite said and Kenny said. Let's go and see what fair-minded guy he said. This is where he's referring to after he admonishes a very culpable wrestling media, talking about Scott Colton, which is Colt Cabana. I haven't had anything to do with Scott Colton in almost a decade. Probably wanted nothing to do with him longer than that. Even though in 2014 he was right on his podcast talking. So that's only 8 years ago, and they were buddies for a while after that. But okay, time's a little fuzzy. He's getting older. But my friends, if I fall backwards, will catch me. Scott Colton, I felt never would have. My problem was, okay, so already Scott Colton was a dickhead. All right, but he doesn't care about him. I fall backwards. They will catch me. Scott Colton, I felt never would have. My problem was I wanted to bring a guy with me to the top that did not want to see me at the top, okay? You call it jealousy, you call it envy, whatever the fuck it is. So this is something right away, swearing he doesn't care about the guy. This is who he doesn't care about. I have every receipt. I have every invoice. I have every email. I have an email where he says, and I quote, "I agree to go our separate ways. I will get my own lawyer and you do not have to pay anymore." That's an email that I have. And the only reason the public did not see it is because when I finally had to countersue him through discovery, he shared a bank account with his mother. That's a fact. And as soon as we discovered that fact, we subpoenaed old Marsha. Marsha. He didn't say that part. He sent the email, "Oh, can we please just all drop this?" It's 2022. I haven't been friends with this guy since at least 2014, late 2013. Again, he was on his podcast late 2014, but okay. And the fact that I had to sit up here because we have irresponsible people who call themselves EVPs and couldn't fucking manage a Target, and they spread lies and bullshit and put into the media that I got somebody fired when I have fuck all to do with him, want nothing to do with him, do not care where he works, where he doesn't work, where he eats, where he sleeps. Clearly, you spend 5 minutes railroading him. And the fact that I have to get up here and do this in 2022 is fucking embarrassing. And y'all are at fault. Fuck you. If you're not, I apologize. That's Colt. That's what he had to say about Colt Cabana. He shares a bank account with his mother. That tells you all you need to know about what kind of character he is. Is that a bad thing, sharing a bank account with your mother? Name 2 people that have made the most money off of the name CM Punk. I don't think you're there yet, talking to Tony Khan. The first one's Vince McMahon. The second one's Scott Colton. Now, he decides to switch over to Adam Page. And he talks about how new wrestlers don't like to get advice from the old timers. What did I ever do in this world to deserve an empty-headed fucking dumb fuck like Adam Page to go out on national television and fucking go into business for himself? For what? What did I do? This is still CM Punk. I'm trying to run a fucking business. Is he the president of the company? And when somebody who has never done a damn thing in this business jeopardized the first $1 million house that this company ever drawn off my back and goes on national television and does that, it's a disgrace to this industry and it's a disgrace to this company. I'll see your disgrace and raise you 5 when I call you out for when you didn't know it was coming just weeks ago. I like how that excuses the behavior he's so upset about. It's totally okay for him to do it. I love that. That is some sociopathic, narcissistic shit. Now we're far beyond apologies. I gave him a fucking chance. He did not get it handled, and you saw what I had to do, which is very regrettable. Lowering my listen to this this fucking conceited prick, lowering myself to his fucking level. But that's where we are right now. And I'll still walk up and down this hallway and say, if you have a fucking problem with me, take it up with me. Let's fucking go. Unless you're the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, then you're a little bitch and you lock the door and try to avoid them, and then you throw a punch. I'm hurt, I'm old, and I'm fucking tired. And
wait, on that note, we're the EVPs and you're going after a guy with a torn tricep.
Fair. I'm hurt. The difference between you and I, sir, is that I say when you get a point, I'll say you're fair. You just deflect. You just deflect. Deflecting. You should be called Vlad Deflector. That didn't make any sense.
Doesn't even rhyme.
It doesn't roll off the tongue at all. I'll tell you why I'm upset. It's because if you're an EVP, you don't try to middle your top baby face. Try to get your niche audience that's on the internet to hate him over some made up bullshit rumor. That's fair. What he's saying is fair. It's what he did in the manner he said it. Yeah. It really pisses me off. Stepping on your own dick, trying to fucking make money, sell tickets and fill arenas. And these stupid guys think they're in Reseda. Our locker room, for all the wisdom and brilliance it has, isn't worth shit when you have an empty-headed idiot who's never done anything. Listen to this motherfucker. Our locker room, for all the wisdom and brilliance it has, isn't worth shit when you have an empty-headed idiot who's never done anything in the business, do public interviews and say, I don't really take advice. Who the fuck do you think you are? That's stupid. I'm on a team with Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, and I'm going to work on my fucking... Go fuck yourself. There's just so much drama and turmoil going on. Tired of wrestling these pricks who think they know everything. But I'm not the boss.
If you or I were sitting next to him at some point in this, you're like giving him like sort of like the tap on the leg, like, "Hey, man,
what?"
And if he doesn't catch that hint, at some point I'm going to say, "Hey, media, I think we're going to cut this off here. We need to like sort of stop this at this point, and just take the microphone away from him, really."
Oh, Tony,
And Tony just sat there, nodded, and agreed with him in a couple times, like, "Oh yeah, I should have, gotten involved at that point or something." He said something like that. And I'm like,
if he agreed with him.
He empowered him a little bit.
Well, he just sat there and looked like he was afraid to say anything at all, and then he tried to take the heat off of who he was talking about. He was like, "Well, I should have stepped in it." Yeah, you should have, Tony. Yeah, you should have. And you should have cut this motherfucker's mic off just like Vince did at the pipe bomb, because that was destructive to your company. You just sat there and watch it. That's not as bad as what Punk did, but it's pretty fucking bad. And now the guy can't even, he has to make his announcements behind the scenes, because did you hear the boos that were downpouring and the fans cheering about MJF being right that he's nothing but a fucking mark?
Yeah.
He's got to get his big boy pants on fast, or he's going to be selling the company to Triple H. Triple H is going to buy that pissant company just like he said he was going to.
He is going to, man. You can feel it.
Tony's got a lot of money, though. I don't know if that'll happen. He might just
his dad does, but how far will he take it?
Oh, he's only got $4 billion. He's fucking poor in the poorhouse. Fucking poorhouse, that guy. No, he's not worth 12 or 13 billion like his dad, but he's still got $4 billion fucking dollars. He's not fucking broke. I'm sure he would have not had it if he was not born into that family. I'm not suggesting that he's a self-made billionaire, but neither's fucking Triple H.
You don't make billions off of statistics.
Well, But the point of me quoting that was everything that you said is a drop in the bucket. It is a drop in the ocean in comparison to what Punk said out loud in public. Now, can you sit there and say the things that Punk said he has a right to be upset? Yeah, but you don't. If someone's fucking your wife, you have a right to be upset. But if you shoot the motherfucker, you're going to be thrown in jail. And then you're going to have to befriend Morgan Freeman. And then you're going to spend 19 years cutting your way through a brick wall with a spoon.
How did we get onto the Shawshank?
My point is, you can be upset. You can be angry. You can be hurt. And I'm sure Punk is all those things about everybody he talked about. He's probably hurt because he's not fitting in the way he thought he was going. He's hurt because these younger generation is not giving him the respect he feels like he would give Terry Funk or the old timers that he knew growing up. He's hurt. He's angry. He probably doesn't want to work there anymore. And that was a quick way out. And CM Punk does what he does best. Cause controversy and not be around.
Yep. I mean, at this point, for this,
that was a great one at the end. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good line, definitely. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be really intriguing to see what comes out while he's healing from this and where his head is at and what Tony wants to do with it. But most intriguing is going to be this investigation.
I mean, Tony's right hand saw. What kind of investigation do they need? It's not like you're going to Mar-a-Lago trying to get nuclear plans here, right?
Right.
So there's blame to go all around, 100%. But if you, I tend to side with the people who built this company, opposed to the guy who is only had less than 20 matches in it. And is still living off a pipe bomb that happened 11 years ago. And a guy that says the things he said in the manner in which he said it, whether he's right or wrong, his reaction was the worst part of this situation, with the exception of the fight, but we never saw the fight. And the fight happened because of that. Tony Khan and CM Punk, all of them, you lose respect for all of them. They all handle themselves poorly, 100%. But Punk was by far the most damaging. And I think like I said before, anyone that thinks different, I think you're delusional. Now, and again, maybe Punk should be a better person. I don't know. Where you don't have a bunch of guys not. It's not like it's just the EVPs who don't like Punk, right?
I mean, Eddie Kingston. Who else? Booker T.
MJF.
I don't know about that.
If you're gonna take a promo in the middle of the ring at face value, you got to do the same thing with the media scrum. Even more so, when he was asked about wrestling MJF, and he said he likes me wrestling. He said something very disparaging about my MJF. Now, was that just? I looked at that, he was just working there.
Yeah, I felt he was working that as well.
But I also thought that a lot of people were working in the things that you brought up before. But if you're going to say working here and not working there, and you're making assumptions, so that's what my point. The things that we know were that CM Punk has damaged this company more than it's ever been damaged before. That's what we know.
I mean, I don't know how damaged it is when you have that many eyes on it. And you had a WWE pay-per-view the day before and nobody's talking about it.
And by the way, if that didn't happen, everyone would still be making fun of the fact that Tyson Fury and Drew McIntyre sang American Pie.
Exactly. And nobody's even talking about that.
That was stupid.
Right.
But the thing is, they shouldn't have. I don't want to get into that. It wasn't that big of a deal. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Lily is in the house.
He's like, Lily's in the house.
Softball player extraordinaire. And she's looking resplendent in those glasses. You got to love that.
Yeah.
Finally got some personality in the show now. I'm liking it.
Yeah. She brings all the personality there.
I think, again, to put a little bow on this, yes. We disagree in terms of, I think I would assume our personal feelings for everybody involved might have something to do with it. This is my thing. I am a CM Punk fan. I remember the day, and we tell the story. We told the story a couple times on the air. You called me and said, "Did you hear what CM Punk said last night?" And I didn't even know much about CM Punk, so I hadn't watched wrestling. No. I listened to that promo, and he spoke for every single wrestling fan. He lit a fuse. But after he lit that fuse, he went home and he stopped building the blocks to change the game.
Yeah.
The guys in the elite, all elite wrestling, and the guys specifically in the elite.
Sleepover, man.
You know, it's amazing. You know, I try to have my daughter on the show, and she avoids it like the plague. So at least we're having.
Yeah, I got the
Silicon Valley is hard to get on this.
No, but you're right, man. And I get where you're coming from with that change and how he got us back into it. And I definitely have a lot of respect for him on that, you know. And again, he's definitely a problem child, to say the least.
He's a hurt, angry guy, man.
I was listening to JR's podcast about him. It's like him and Conrad talking about Punk for 3 hours.
Was this recent?
3 hours. Yeah, it's like one of the more recent ones. And it doesn't cover what just happened, but I think they knew, hey, he's going to become champion, and here it is. And JR is just talking about him, man. And just like he gets into like, you know, basically, all right, Punk didn't drink, doesn't smoke, all that. You know, what's his deal? Women. Wait till you hear JR is just like, he's like, oh man, he was with like Beth Phoenix and this and that. Like he just starts naming a couple names, you know, and he's like, that's what he would concentrate on.
I heard he got around in the backstage area.
So I listened to about an hour of it. I'm definitely going to finish it before the next time we do it, because he just gets into his psychology, and he said that Punk is as close to his character as Stone Cold is to his. And he goes, that's what makes a great wrestler. You don't blur those lines. And that was one of the things that was sort of intriguing with JR saying. You know, I'm sort of paraphrasing, but I'm definitely going to finish listening to it, because he gets into like they talk about his whole Ring of Honor days. They do touch on Colt Cabana a little bit, and JR sort of scratches that surface a little bit. And he said it's unfortunate. He goes, they got into this legal thing. It's sad when you see two friends go this way.
I think I actually heard this podcast. I think I actually listened to part of this.
Yeah.
The consensus is that Punk is not an easy guy to get along with. It's just that's been his consensus since day one, and he's done nothing to change that.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. And at some point, that has to be part of all this. Just like all the bullshit of going to Meltzer is part of all this. CM Punk being a douchebag is part of this. It's all this big thing. And guys, what? They're probably jealous of him a little bit, because he came in and he was Tony's boy right away. Tony's hugging him, jacking him off during the media scrums, giving him booking power. Probably. I mean, we talked about it at verbatim that Tony Khan he looked up at CM Punk. He was like a child. The first couple of press conferences with CM Punk. A child. No hug this time. Awkward.
There was no hug, yeah. And I think CM Punk was like, I had enough of this. And then Tony knew he was in trouble.
Tony's just like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, how do you just do you think anybody that wouldn't happen in front of anybody? You think that would happen in front of Bill Watts, Triple H, Vince McMahon?
Nope.
Jim fucking Hurd? No.
Nope. No, there's no
Tony Khan, the problem now is Tony Khan, you lost the locker room. If you ever had it to begin with. The locker room is gone. That's the biggest problem here. Tony Khan pull CM Punk. Are the girls in the room?
They are. But they can't hear. I'm sorry. Are they picking up on this?
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
What CM Punk pulled out his little Tony Khan's little baby dick and jerked him off until nothing came out. That's a TV show. I'm quoting again. The TV show. I didn't write that.
I get you.
I Think You Should Leave, starring Tim Robinson. Not Tim Robbins in Shawshank Redemption. Tim Robinson. But CM Punk showed just how futile Tony Khan during real times of struggle within this kind of struggle anyway. Look, Tony Khan was brilliant during the pandemic. Tony Khan has been brilliant during Brody Lee. Tony Khan has been a great leader in many respects. But when it comes to this and dealing with talent, which is the biggest problem every promoter ever has, he failed miserably to the point now where he probably didn't do a lot of talking that moved anybody. You had to have Jericho, Moxley, and Danielson do most of the talking and be the locker room leaders. You have, again, the prisoners are the inmates are running the asylum, similar to WCW.
Yes.
And he's got to take control, put somebody in charge who's going to be Tony. Maybe you're not a wrestling guy anymore. Maybe you just do your book because you're not even booking that well. You're not giving what the fans want. This is the problem with Tony now. You're not giving us what they want. We wanted FTR and the Young Bucks. Nope. We want all these things we want. And the House of Black not to be derelicts. Nope. Tony Khan, that's your big thing. We're giving the fans what they want. You have failed at that for months now. Months. You've had major injuries. But all systems are go, and you showed no sign that you were going to change the way you're doing your business. And that is the biggest problem with Tony Khan. And that's a bigger problem than what CM Punk did. CM Punk, what he did was a symptom to the Tony Khan, the impotency of his leadership. That's what that is. And he better figure it out fast, or he's going to be selling that. And they're not going to be picked up by Discovery.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm a little bit concerned too. Is like they have got to be looking at this as executives and be like, they wanted Punk back, and then this thing just totally goes off a cliff. And now what are you selling?
I mean, CM Punk's your cover. And by the way, remember how pissed off I was when CM Punk got the cover?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't think the guy has done enough to warrant this kind of reaction. If we want to go just simply because he quote unquote sold more tickets. I mean, it wasn't like it was just him. And I'm tired of hearing that bullshit that it's just him. I am. I'm not saying he didn't help the company. He did.
Yeah.
But for him to sit there and say he's AEW, Mr. AEW, you're not, homie.
Yeah.
And even if you wanted to keep on wrestling for AEW, you couldn't, because you can't even last a full year without getting significantly injured twice. And Bucks and Kenny, you guys shouldn't be EVPs if you're acting like this. Those are all facts. And that's I think the biggest thing. You got a douchebag, immaturity, impotence, and workers as your EVPs that shouldn't be doing it if they're going to act the way they did.
Yeah. Because Tony Khan does have like some of the pieces, as we mentioned, Regal and Ross and a few others, where he can change the culture there, but he's got to get very serious about this.
Yeah, he's got to stop listening to the wrestlers and start getting people that are not going to have conflict of interests running that company.
Yep.
They're going to put FTR and the Young Bucks in a match. It's a disaster. It's and by the way, after we destroy, and we talked about this ad nauseum now.
Yeah.
You got to give John Moxley credit. Very good promo. I know you're not the biggest Moxley fan, but that was a very nice promo he cut.
He's actually cut two in a row that are good.
Yeah. So
I got to say that. Yeah. Like the one in Chicago where he was talking to that crowd. He really did a hell of a job on that.
Fragile mind.
Yeah.
No, wait. No. Fragile body, fragile ego, weak mind, weak spirit. Oh, I loved it. Love it.
It was a very good promo by him. And then this last one when he came out and took the mic away from MJF here. It was well done.
Do you think Danielson turns on Moxley, or is there some kind of turn on maybe the Blackpool Comic Club turns on Moxley? I'm not sure, but they got the pieces in place.
It does MJF run out during that match and steal it from them?
Well, he does. It's not like it's a Money in the Bank briefcase. He just gets an opportunity. It's not like he just
gets a match. Okay.
Yeah, it's not like he can just run it in. It's not Money in the Bank.
Okay. All right. Because the way he said it, I could get it anytime I want to.
He'll probably do it on the pay-per-view. I would assume you're going to see.
Yeah.
I've seen MJF is going to be your new world champion. By the way, MJF will be your new world champion, I think, by the fall, and then it's going to be. He might be the longest reigning champion ever until the contract is renewed. I think that's a work, though.
No.
There's no way Tony Khan would let this guy do this if this was the case. There's just no way.
Yeah.
Unless he's that stupid, and maybe he is.
Hey, you and I have talked about MJF and now, like, how we admire how he never breaks character, and it's like a dying thing. Did you hear Jericho's portion of the scrum?
No, I didn't. I know.
You got
Jericho. I did hear Jericho at the end of it saying there's some shit going on backstage.
You got to listen to the Jericho part of the scrum. He actually talks about his conversations with MJF, and basically opens it up like what MJF is like outside of his character.
Oh,
you got to listen to it. I could not believe it when I heard it. I'm like, this guy just ruined it. He's like ruining it.
What'd he say?
You got to play it. I don't want to take it away. He's
a real nice guy. He makes me nice matzo ball soup.
No, it's not like that. He's telling him about becoming a face, and then Jarek, basically MJF is like, oh, I don't know. What do you think? And it's so not MJF. And I'm like, he is totally destroying what this character that he's building with these 3 sentences here. I have no idea why Jericho would even have approached it at that point.
Maybe it's jealousy. He doesn't want. I mean, it didn't matter. MJF is still over like Rover still, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, but you got to just for your own entertainment services.
Because you never hear people talk positively about MJF and how he is outside of his character. That's what we got going on this week, folks. I mean, this has been a crazy week. Vladi Dadi got a little heated there. He got a little upset there. I was never upset. I love you. You're fine.
The love is mutual for sure.
It's okay. It's okay if you're wrong. No, I think we kind of agree. We just are more angry about maybe other things. I felt like AEW was under attack by CM Punk, and you don't like Harpo Fingerfuck and the Young Bucks because they're gross and terrible.
No, they're gross and full of shit.
They're gross and full of shit, which maybe
and that's becoming truth.
You are like a sage, a great Asian sage who sees the future beautifully.
like Confucius, but more
confused. Yes, exactly. An old Tibetan sage of some sort.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I am. Listen, you and I are still on the same path in terms of like the generally what we've spoken about here. I wanted to kind of give some context into this, and listen, I'm not on Twitter, but I'm seeing what's on Facebook and Instagram, and I see how it's very like it's all like, oh, Punk is the devil, and there's no like he was just out of it. There was like no context to it, and I'm like, wait a second, there's enough context here to understand where this is going. And I'll be honest with you, if I was in front of Meltzer and Alvarez there considering those things, there would be a part of me that would have wanted to do something similar. And even when you're reading his dialogue, I'm still sitting there laughing because of who he's saying it to.
There is that, but he went too far. Again, I keep on bringing this part up. O.J. Simpson's wife cheated on him. Was O.J. right for doing what he did?
You're comparing murder to CM Punk.
I was comparing CM Punk to a Hertz commercial because O.J. Simpson was great in the Hertz commercials. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's a murderer.
Allegedly. Let's not get sued here, buddy. Let's not get sued. One of our
OJ didn't even have to deal with the whole Shawshank thing.
Imagine if OJ came through with this new wrestling internet community and wrestling dirt sheets. Wow. I know I write for a dirt sheet, so we get it. I'm not allowed to report news. I have to do biopsies on fucking Jade Cargill, though. So, Edie, please check out the everydayfan.com.
Oh man,
I have to do a Kenny Omega one, which I'm excited about because I don't really have to do much research because I know his career so well. But I haven't done it because I don't want to do your run of the mill one. I kind of want to do something different with Kenny. Maybe his vision of how he wanted to change professional wrestling. Go back 2016, he was talking about changing professional wrestling for the good.
Yeah.
And no matter what you could say, he was part of that change that made professional wrestling to what it is today. So that's a good thing.
He definitely changed professional wrestling. And you can also cite and even put a link in for his art house film Sissy Boy Slap Fight, because that really changed the movie business as we know it.
I usually just watched one of the Okada matches or one of his G1 matches, or I watched the Hangman feud. Whatever. But Vladi Dadi, that's what we got with the CM Punk Elite thing. It could be monster box office. It really could be. The only problem is that with FTR is FTR's going to have to turn heel if they're going to be on CM Punk's side. because right now he is despised by the AEW galaxy. Yes, I called him that.
The galaxy. Oh my God. Although when they said that they had to go and rescind or like basically whatever Tony Khan said about the world title, there were boos.
Because I don't think it was booed because of CM Punk. I think it was booed because of another fucking tournament.
I gotcha.
I mean, it was just, oh, Jesus Christ. And who's at the top of your list are going to do it? One of three people are going to get it. Jericho, which I doubt. One of two people, Moxley or Danielson. I mean, you got some good names here. Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin. Neither one of them are winning.
No.
It's just to put them in there and have a banger of a match and do something crazy, and one of them will hurt each other. One of them will hurt themselves really bad. Great.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, I'm looking for it to be Danielson. Hangman's already out.
And you know what? I was watching the trios match between Best Friends and Death Triangle. I turned to my darling wife and I said, if I was a gambler, I would bet a mortgage payment right now that those jerk offs and the tie-dye are going to win. She's like, really? I go, yeah. I'm like, they're literally best friends with the EVPs. And thank God I'm not a gambling addict, man. Because I could not believe that Death Triangle won that match.
Oh, I thought they were winning. I definitely thought
I was like, oh God. I'm like,
they're a much better team.
They are, no, but I'm like, Tony Khan's so in love with Orange Cassidy. I'm like, he's gonna go and put the titles on these guys, man.
Yeah, but he's not in love with Chuck Taylor and Trent. That's for damn sure. Those guys barely get on. They began on TV lately, but they weren't. Especially Chuck Taylor. He wasn't on TV when Trent was hurt. He didn't get on TV at all. So, I think the fact remains also they're very close with Lucha Brothers, the Bucks. So if you want to make that point, they've made a lot of magic, those guys. It's gonna be interesting to see. We don't have all the details. We don't know what happened. We don't know what's going to happen. But you do worry Kenny Omega and CM Punk within the next 6 months to a year. Neither one of them will be in AEW. That is something you need to be concerned about because Kenny Omega has said, he's almost coming back somewhat begrudgingly because people are going to not let he said he's thinking if he has another setback, he's done, what have you. But then he goes out and looks like he rekindled his love again, goes out and has a banger match. It was one of the two best matches on the night, that trios match. It really was. It was a great match. That was a great match. And then the tag team match was great. And, so
I heard and read really good things about the tag team match. Like it was awesome. And then like the Acclaimed with Caster and Bones, it's like, and even like, honestly, even Billy Gunn, he adds something to them.
Yes. He's daddy ass.
Totally. And the fans are into it, man. And it's like, this organically is a great thing, man. And again, I'm totally for those guys getting the titles, even in lieu of FTR. Like I'm cool with that at this time.
Well, they got to start doing something with FTR. Cash Wheeler tweeted more angst with AEW. Cash Wheeler tweeted, "I really miss being in our tag team, and nothing makes me happier than defending our titles. But Dax is having an incredible year, and I'm excited for him." But for Cash Wheeler to say, "Look, I want a tag team," I thought he was injured. I thought there was a problem with Cash Wheeler. No, Tony Khan's just not booking the best fucking tag team in the world, or maybe the second best, 1 or 1A, whatever. I personally think they're the best. He's not booking them in tag team matches. What the fuck is your problem, Tony? For Christ almighty sakes, dude, you got to get your head out of your asshole, buddy. Whatever you're doing, you're fucking up, man.
He is. I 100% agree. And I just don't even know what to think with this. Like, why would you not take advantage of that? These guys make money. Look at how many FTR shirts are in the goddamn crowds at this point.
It's like he's trying to bury it. It reminds me of what Vince used to do. Like when there was a guy who was really popular, Daniel Bryan, the one year before WrestleMania 30, when they had forced to put him in the main event. They just bury people who are over. Damian Sandow. He cheered for months and months and months, and they finally turned him on Miz. And then they turned him into I don't know what they turned him into.
And here's another one. Like I didn't necessarily
Elias.
Understand. But Elias is another good one. But even like Rusev with Rusev Day. Not that I was a Rusev Day fan, but they did nothing with it.
Yeah.
And speaking of Rusev, that was another one. Like, why wasn't his name in that bracket for the title?
I mean, who are you going to take out? I'm not going to kill him for that. I'm not going to kill him for that, but I think he needs to start. Look, he just needs to stop fucking up. He needs to start putting the people who are going to make money and what people want to see. As much as we love these little bangers that you have with Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia, it was a great moment. But look at your ratings. It was one of the lowest rated segments of the show. Okay, Tony, stop booking it. You're going to have, you can keep these great little dork matches that all the dorks on the internet like. You can still keep those matches. Just don't bookend them with it. Don't put them at the end of your night. Come on, Tony. Fuck is your problem?
Like, comparably, back in the day in WCW Nitro, I became a Jericho fan because he held that slot like during the mid card.
Yeah, he was like second or third or fifth or toward the end of the night, but not. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and I was entertained. I'm like, I'm not changing the channel for this guy. He's gonna entertain me, and that's where I became a Jerichoholic there.
Yeah.
And he should do the same. Tony should do the same here instead of like, oh yeah, we got to put these guys on the main event.
It's like he's listening to people who have no idea what they're doing, and I don't know who he's listening to, but he has no idea what he's doing, and it's very obvious now. He's not Booker of the Year anymore. That's for damn sure. Well, folks, this has been Vladi Dadi here on High Spots and Cheap Pops. This is Silicon Steve Valley. High Spots, Cheap Pops. Vladi Dadi. What else we got this week? Anything in WWE? We'll get into that a little bit later. Clash of the Castle. My boy Roman, get it up. Triple H does not pull the trigger on the title change. I think I lost the other two, both AEW matches. So but I did win the big one. So that counts as 6. So I keep the title, right?
There you go. Yeah, that's fuzzy math, and I'm terrible at math, so it sounds right to me.
Drew McIntyre fucked you once again, though.
I can't pick any of his matches. I'm like Ray Charles with this guy. I'll say this though. Before we got on air, I did watch Gunther against Sheamus. Yeah. A very good professional wrestling match. And it was good to see the crowd react to Sheamus. It was a really beautiful moment. Like, and I'm not necessarily a Sheamus guy by any means, but there I was like, he's
been great the last.
They really just captured something, and he lost, and that's where like professional wrestling could be poetic.
Yeah, it was brilliant. He's put a great run together, some just banger match after banger match. Sheamus has been he's not a world champion, folks. No. Sorry, I know he has been one, but he never should have been a world champion. He's a mid-carder, but he's a great mid-carder.
Yes, he is, and
that's what he is. Now that he's doing that, now he's in his lane, and people love him. But you can't tell me anyone. People were like, this guy's the fucking champ. Why?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
He's found his niche.
But I do recommend it. If you get a chance to definitely check out that match.
I did watch. Yes, everyone checked out that match. I did watch that match. It was great. It was very New Japan-esque in many ways, except they didn't. You can make the argument that it might have been booked with a little more common sense, opposed to someone who kicks out of a 3 German suplexes on the back of their neck 3 times and just pops up and gives somebody a pile driver. That might happen in New Japan sometimes.
Which match are you talking about specifically? Is that
I don't have one. Any Jeff Cobb match. Tomohiro Ishii match.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
It's a normal thing in New Japan. So look, this was going to be interesting, folks. We weren't sure because Vladi Dadi, you are clearly on Team Punk to a certain extent. I'm on Team AEW and what is good and right in the world. You're on Punk's side.
I like evil.
Yeah. But I think we could all agree that none of these people look good this past weekend, and they've all damaged the company, and they better figure it out fast.
Yep.
All right.
No,
well,
right.
thanks. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on High Spots and Cheap Pops. Yes, CM Punk and the Elite dominated this conversation, but this is one of the what a fucking year we're having. If you told me back in January, Vince McMahon was going to retire and CM Punk was going to be shamefully ousted from the company in much likelihood, if cooler heads don't prevail. And something tells me with CM Punk's involved, cooler heads don't prevail too often, if we've seen his past, right? So they can make a lot of money. But does either one, CM Punk or Kenny Omega, want to do it? Do the Bucks want to play this stupid game anymore? They all just need to grow up a little bit.
Yep, I agree. Including
the owner. Ladies and gentlemen, this is for Vladi Dadi. This is Silicon Steve Valley. I want to thank Vladi Dadi for the epic. And by the way, great job, Vladi Dadi, whether I agree with you or not, like I said before, great job of picturing if those people who did not know the perspective of where CM Punk was coming from. You did a very good job with that. You know, and then we'll leave it at that. I thought you did a great job.
Thanks, man.
You know, all I had to do is read what PM Punk said, and everyone probably that's listening realizes that CM Punk is the bigger douchebag of the group, but it's fine. I'm just gonna eat fried. You know, I got some fried chicken here from Jimmy's Fried Chicken right down on Broad Street. He's not open on Saturdays or Fridays or Sundays, so you're shit out of luck if you. And it's a food truck.
I was wondering why he didn't plug what he was drinking.
He had a 6-pack of it. What the fuck?
Was it seltzer? What was it?
It was some kind of seltzer flavored energy drink, I think, or seltzer or something. It looked like a bubbly, like seltzery water. We know it wasn't alcohol. The guy, oh, by the way, we do want to say we had well over 15 people vote.
That's good.
It actually was our biggest turnout vote in history.
Huge.
And the question poll was, should CM Punk start drinking or smoking weed to relax and not be such a douche? 40% said yes. 37% said maybe just weed.
Oh.
And 23% said no.
They're sticking to their guns.
We know how much you love that internet wrestling community. They want you to start getting fucked up.
Yeah. Abandon the straight edge lifestyle.
And who you are as a person and you've been your entire life. You think he'd be cool if he smoked some weed? I feel like CM Punk would be such a nicer human being if he smoked weed.
It almost seems like he's got to take the edge off a little bit.
And the straight edge that is, by the way. There's a little bit of weed. April Mendez. Come on, AJ Lee. Throw some tincture in his coffee because we know he likes his coffee.
He loves it. Yep. I'm just happy Larry wasn't hurt.
And we know who to thank for that. Kenny fucking Omega.
No, Kenny had him in the headlock, and then Ace Steel bit him, and then he released it.
Kenny was about to give Larry the one-winged angel. He was going to give him a V-trigger. He was doing the whole thing like, ah!
So...
the show has finally got off the rails if it hadn't a couple times during the show. Editing's going to be fun. We'll get this out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed SmackDown and Rampage. We did not get the results of that, but hopefully it was two good shows. Vladi, Dadi, did you see anything on SmackDown tonight before we went on air?
I did not get a chance to yet. Actually, I'm going to probably watch a little bit tonight before I go to bed.
MJF was enjoying it. He tweeted an emoji with the number 1 sticking up, so he is a monster Bloodline fan. You can take that. And it was right when Roman Reigns was on TV, by the way. It wasn't like he just did it because he's number 1.
He's playing this beautifully, by the way.
He's the best professional wrestler in the world, and he's been that for about a year now. So,
yep.
He can even go. He can even go have a great feud with some broken down old schlub like CM Punk, right?
Yeah, I mean, because Omega and the Bucks won't want to wrestle him, so he's got to work with those guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, lady. This is Silicon Steve Valley for Vladi Dadi. Thank you for listening to High Spots and Cheap Pops. Please tell us, where do you... Oh, we know. You guys all hate CM Punk just like everybody else. But if you don't agree, let us know in the comments. You can tweet at me at Silicon Valley. Hit us up on our ever-growing Facebook page. We're continuing to go 8 new likes this week, so we're excited about that. The Facebook page continues to grow, and we're going to keep on pushing along, guys. Ridiculous, crazy times in the world of professional wrestling right now. Once again, for Vladi Dadi, this is Silicon Steve Valley. You're listening to High Spots and Cheap Pops. Here endeth the lesson.